Hello there, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today. Let's start off this story with some news out of ESPN. More than 24 female fighters joined together in a statement last week calling for the option to fight 12 rounds and 3-minute rounds if they choose to do so for championship fights. The story being written by Michael Rothstein continues. The statement comes weeks after Amanda Serrano and Daniela Ramos fight on October 27th for Serrano's IBF, WBO, and WBA featherweight championships in 12 3-minute rounds. The first time a unified title will be fought by women at those specifications. The majority of women's title fights are currently contested in 10 2-minute rounds. Beyond Serrano and Ramos, many of the top names in the sport, past and present, supported the statement, including undisputed junior welterweight champ Chantel Cameron, WBA and WBC strawweight champ Sinicia Estrada, IBF welterweight champ Natasha Jonas, Michaela Mayer, Franchon Cruz Dezern, Holly Holm, Heather Hardy, Christy Martin, Ann Wolfe, Shadesha Green, Layla Ali, and Ramla Ali. So that's a great news, I think, out of the boxing world. Equality, I think, should prevail. Um, it was actually Layla McCarter, who was previously showcased and interviewed on Talkin Fight, who supported the statement and fought in the last known major 12-round, 3-minute round fight back in 2007, by the way, when she beat Donna Biggers and Melissa Hernandez, although neither fight went the distance. So women in the sport have pushed for the 3-minute rounds over the past half decade, and the Sinicia Estrada Marlon Esparza WBA interim flyweight title fight in 2019 was scheduled for 10 3-minute rounds, although Estrada won the fight by technical decision after it was stopped following a cut from a headbutt. So there you go. Something to look forward to in women's boxing. Around the world, World Boxing, the new international federation established to keep boxing at the heart of the Olympic movement, as told to us by womenboxing.com and Sue Fox and friends, will hold its inaugural Congress at the Marina Kaden venue in Frankfurt am Main in Germany on the 24th and 25th of November of this year. The Congress will host World Boxing's first ever elections, when members will vote for a range of offices, including president, vice president, and places on World Boxing's executive board, along with the chairs of the Sports and Competition Committee, the Medical and Anti-Doping Committees, and the Finance and Audit Committee. Frankfurt am Main has been specifically chosen as a location for World Boxing's first elections, owing to its historical significance as the cradle of the German democratic movement and the place where the first freely elected parliament for all German states first sat in May back in 1848. So nominations from 18 countries across 4 continents have been accepted for the executive positions. As I said, voting will take place on the 24th and 25th of November. Once the vetting has been completed, a final list of eligible candidates will be published in October this year, no later than 30 days before the elections actually take place. So that's coming up in a few short weeks. And World Boxing members will have 2 or 3 votes depending on their compliance with the voting rules detailed in World Boxing's statutes. Simon Jolson, Secretary General of World Boxing, said, hosting its inaugural Congress and holding open, fair, and transparent elections will be a significant milestone in the evolution of world boxing and demonstrate for the organization's delivering on its commitment to principles of integrity, honesty, and excellence. So congratulations to World Boxing, flying in the face of the IBA. Speaking of flying in the face, Lee Wood's fists, as you know, were flying on the weekend. And Lee Wood insists he does not care who he faces next, as long as it's at Nottingham Forest City ground. After Eddie Hearn described that Josh Warrington rematch as the biggest fight out there for him. This comes in the wake of me suggesting on the Friday night panel that perhaps Joe Gordina might be a good battle for Leewood. Lots of news coming across here. The conclusion to their fight came under controversial circumstances when he fought Josh Warrington, who believed that Michael Alexander waved it off too early without giving him the adequate time to prove his recovery. Now the attention has turned to what might be next for Wood, who has been promised a 2024 fight at the home of his beloved Nottingham Forest, who play football in that city of Nottingham. The 35-year-old says he'll definitely be moving up to super featherweight, which has opened the door to an all-British clash, as I said, with Joe Gordina. Names like Emmanuel Navarrete have also popped up for the outdoor clash, but Wood is adamant he doesn't mind who is in the opposite corner. Speaking of people who are a little bit upset with the judge's decision, former light heavyweight world champion Joe Smith Jr. Debuted and lost in the cruiserweight division on Saturday night against Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez in a riveting 10-round clash that had fans on the edge of their seats, and that was held at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas, Nevada. The action-packed two-way battle between the Warriors had fans once again feeling the strength and power that has made Smith Jr. a must-see attraction throughout his career. Scores from the judges, 99-91. All three do not depict the outstanding fight, nor give credit to Smith Jr. Smith Jr. was returning to the ring following a rough 16-month period of personal headaches, including the murder of his younger brother Alex this past May. Stated Joe DeGuardia, president of Star Boxing, Smith's longtime promoter. We're very proud of Joe's performance last night. He continues to show these top-level, a must-see fighter, even now at cruiserweight. As for the judges, 99-91 is extremely disappointing. And while Zurdo may have pulled out the fight, this is no way warrants that scoring. This is no way warrants that final scoring, nor does it reflect what everyone watching the fight witnessed. It was also troubling that if the fight had been a 12-rounder and Joe had won the last two rounds, he still wouldn't have gotten the decision, which amplifies why such scoring is concerning. However, our focus is on the thrilling action that Joe provides in the ring. He's back, and I expect him to be even stronger in the near future, and we'll be seeking a rematch of this very exciting fight. Over to BoxingNews24.com, where we see Jim Caff has some reporting out of Tim Zayed camp. It's interesting that he might be facing Canelo Alvarez, Jermell Charlo, or Terence Crawford if he successfully defends his WBO junior middleweight title against Brian Mendoza, upcoming in Sydney, Australia. Tim says he sees himself staying at 154 for another year before he moves up to 160. So if Crawford wants to fight him, he's going to need to do it soon before he moves up in weight to the middleweight division. So you can't afford to look past the dangerous puncher Mendoza, 22-2, 16 knockouts, for their headliner on Showtime Boxing International at 10:30 Eastern Time this upcoming weekend. Mendoza is a huge puncher. He's on a roll right now, having won his last 3 fights by knockout, and he's looking like a real threat to Zayed and to Jermell if he comes back down to 154. It would make the most sense for the undisputed junior middleweight champ, Zayed, 23-0, by the way, to fight Jermell, who holds the IBF, WBA, and WBC titles in the same division. Jermell is expected to return to the 154-pound weight class after his loss to Canelo Alvarez in 2021. Zayed currently holds Jermell's WBO title, which he needs to regain his undisputed status. The bigger money fights for Zayed would be at 168, where he would have the opportunity to face Canelo and David Benavidez. If Zayed is going to move up, he'll need to do it soon because Canelo will likely retire in the next 3 years. Fair enough. Alrighty, let's move along to Pat McCormack, who's going to face Pete Dobson on November 11th in Newcastle. A good Remembrance Day affair. Rising welterweight star Pat McCormack will headline the first ever show when he puts his WBA international title on the line against undefeated American Peter Dobson at the Utilita Arena in Newcastle, Saturday, November 11th, to be shown worldwide on DAZN. This coming courtesy of worldboxingnews.net. Matchroom return to Newcastle for their latest Next Generation offering, featuring following Cyrus Patterson's unforgettable war with Welshman Chris Jenkins back in March. But this time, all eyes will be on Tokyo 2020 Olympic super medalist McCormack, who takes his biggest step up to date. Sunderland's McCormack, he's 5-0, 4 knockouts, has breezed through his first 5 opponents since turning pro in March 2022, claiming his first title in the paid ranks last time out in July, as he retired Tom Dixon in 4 rounds to earn the WBA ranking title. The Ben Davidson-trained talent returns to the Utilita Arena in Newcastle for the 3rd time as he defends his belt against New York's Dobson, 16-0, 9 knockouts, who arrives at these shores full of confidence, having won all 16 of his professional contests since turning over in 2014. Let's move on to BoxingNews24.com's Craig Daly, who says on Saturday night, IBF middleweight champ Vincenzo Gualtieri, 21-0 with 1 draw, will take on powerful WBO champ Janibek Alamkhanuly, 14-0, 9 knockouts, in a 2-belt unification fight to be shown on ESPN. This is not the ideal fight for the top-ranked promoter Janibek to become a superstar at 160, but with no interest from the bigger names in the weight class, he has to sell to facing the obscure IBF champion Gualtieri. The idea is that Janibek will gain fame by collecting all 160-pound titles to become the undisputed champion, much like Terence Crawford, who accomplished this 15 years ago. Wow. Alamkhanuly and Gualtieri will take place at the Fort Bend Epicenter in Rosenberg, Texas, and as I said, shown on ESPN, ESPN Deportes, and ESPN Plus, being at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time or 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Janibek needs a good performance on Saturday night to help build his popularity because he lost fans when he struggled against British club fighter Denzel Bentley last November. For Janibek to gain popularity in a hurry, he'll need to take a big career risk by moving up to 168 so that he can get those fights against Canelo, Dave Benavidez, Caleb Plant, and Demetrius Andrade, among others. All righty, let's have a quick look here across the pond. Yes. Marlon Tapales, the Filipino 2-belt super bantamweight champ, Marlon Tapales, will be a pretty big underdog when he climbs into the ring with rival 2-belt 122-pound champ Naoya Inoue later this year, a fight possible to go for December 26th in Japan. But don't tell the Filipino warrior his team Tapales, who has already been training for the fight for some time, will not at all be overawed by fighting in Japan, as the 31-year-old southpaw has boxed there before, 4 times in total, with the current WBA and IBF champ winning all 4. Speaking ahead of his big fight, the monster, Tapales, 37-3, 18 knockouts, says he will reverse things on fight night and become Inoue's worst nightmare. He said, "I will be the Japanese monster's biggest nightmare this coming December in his hometown," said Tapales. "I'm so glad my everyday training always goes smoothly. My condition looks good, as well as my stamina, durability, punching power, and quickness. So by December, during fight night, I'll be better than ever. I will be ready to be Inoue's worst nightmare." Alrighty, over to Canada for some news about Ryan Rozicki, who we were talking about just very recently on the Friday night panel as well. 3 Lions Promotions present a card of professional boxing on Saturday, December 2nd at the Emera Centre in Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada. The card will be headlined by a 12-round WBC Cruiserweight Final Eliminator contest between former WBC World Title Challenger Ryan the Bruiser Rozicki, he's 19-1, 18 knockouts, and Nigeria's Olan Rangjua God's Power Durodola. He's 43-9, by the way, with 39 knockouts. The winner will become the mandatory challenger to the world champion. The Cruiserweight inaugural title, which was vacated by Badu Jack, will be contested by WBC ranked number 1 Noel Mikaelvin, who's 26-2, 11 knockouts, and former WBC world title holder, WBC ranked number 2 Ilunga Makuba, 29-3, 25 knockouts, in November 4th in Miami, USA. Rozicki is currently ranked number 8 by the WBC and suffered his only loss against Oscar Rivas, 28-1, by the way, in October 2021 when he challenged for the vacant WBC World Bridgerweight title. Since then, Rosicky has won his last 6 fights, 4 of which were stopped before the end of the third. Rosicky's most recent accolade was being crowned the NABF Cruiserweight champ last week on September 30th, winning the spectacular knockout in the 10th round against then-defending champion USA's Alante Green. 10-2-1, by the way. Duradula, who resides in both USA and Nigeria, is currently ranked number 12 by the WBC. As with Rosicky, he has had hand raised in the last 6 fights, winning them all by way of knockout. Duradula's last defeat nearly 2 years ago was the current WBC number 6, Richard Rickport, 16-0, 14 knockouts out of Britain. Duradula would get his second chance fighting for the same title if he becomes mandatory, originally challenging Ilunga Makuba back in December of 2020. So some good fighting to be had in the upcoming months. And we'll conclude today's episode with a bit of sad news out of South Africa. Reigning South African bantamweight champion Ronald King Malindi died on Saturday after having spent nearly 2 months in the Helen Joseph Hospital, where he had been admitted after being shot in the head and chest in the Westbury Township. Very sad news indeed. The 29-year-old fighter, who was actually a cab driver and lived in Brixton for a while, was originally from Tashuma outside of Trohoyandu. Wow. Malindi made his pro debut on 24th of December 2017 at the Emperor's Palace near Kempton Park against Tulumusa Nagima and won on a first-round technical knockout. He won his next 4 fights inside the distance before winning on points over 4 rounds against Ronnie Chilioni. After scoring another 2 victories, he won the vacant ABU African Bantamweight title with a first-round technical knockout over Alexander Gambinda. Winning his next 3 fights in style, he then claimed the vacant South African Bantamweight title with a 12-round points win over Mabulio Dianti. He would go on to make 4 successful defenses of the title and needed only 1 more successful defense to retain the belt for his own property. In his last fight, on 8th of July 2022, at the Steve Chiswete Banquet Hall, Middleburg, he retained the title on a 12-round split decision against Rafiwa Nemu Shangwa to finish with an outstanding record of 19-0 with 9 knockouts. Sad news indeed. All right, boxing fans, thank you very much for joining me today on Talkin Fight. Appreciate it very much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you later on at 4 p.m. Eastern Time when I join Mike Orr for his show, Knuckle Up.